Do you ever feel that if you stopped talking, you'll disappear? That if you're not sharing your story, your pain, your struggles, no one will see you and no one will stay? Heather is the remedy for those who fear emptiness so deeply that they fill the silence with words, hoping someone will hold them close. Hi, my name is Michelle. I'm a Bach Flower practitioner and a student of esoteric and vibrational sciences. I created my course Bloom into Balance to help sensitive souls like you and me heal from emotional wounds, overcoming trauma, guilt, anxiety, overthinking, and finally finding a way back to inner peace. I also recently started the Remedy Circle, a warm, safe community where people like us can connect, share, and learn together. It's a space where we help each other navigate life's most difficult emotional challenges for less than the price of a coffee. If you'd like to join us, I'd left all the links below and I'd love to welcome you there, of course. On the surface, Heather people may look like they just talk too much. But underneath, there is a child longing for comfort, afraid of being forgotten, afraid that silence might mean abandonment. They feel driven by an uncontrollable urge to tell everyone about everything that happens to them. It's almost like a form of emotional discharge. Speaking is their way of releasing tension. They tend to pull every conversation back to themselves. You could be talking at a party and suddenly they say, "Oh yes, I did that too." Or they switch the topic entirely to their own favorite subjects without even noticing the shifts themselves. Sometimes it's very hard to get away from someone in a Heather state without being a little rude. They may literally pull at your sleeve trying to keep your attention. And there's often a strong, almost magnetic pull around them, and many people just don't have the willpower to free themselves from it. They end up feeling caught, drained, and exhausted. They can easily start conversations with complete strangers, like telling someone in a doctor's waiting room everything about their illness. They can spend hours on the phone repeating their stories again and again and again, especially if they feel they have no one at home to talk to. Most of their sentences begin with I. Their thinking and actions are often centered around their own experiences, and showing genuine interest in someone else's needs can be very difficult for them. So in short, Heather is for people who feel lonely, isolated, unseen, but often hide it by talking constantly. They fear being abandoned or forgotten. They seek closeness, but paradoxically push others away by overwhelming them. They feel a deep inner hunger for connection, safety, and being heard. Now, going a bit deeper. The problem in the Heather state is that the person runs in circles around their own problems, almost trapped inside them. And without realizing it, they can start to get on the nerves of people around them. Even when they try to help, sometimes they push solutions that actually come at the expense of others. Sometimes it can even seem a little bit funny, but in reality it can be very exhausting for others. There's often an almost compulsive need for self-glorification. They need to always have something important to share. Serious problems, heroic actions, dramatic events. And if it's not important, they will talk about it anyway, as if it is, whether you want to hear it or not. I'm going to give you an extreme example. I know a lady who literally clings on my shirt, stands in front of me so that I cannot pass, to tell me about the adventures of her 7 cats. And these adventures are stories about where they pee, how they look, or where they sleep. You catch my drift. These are often people who struggle with a mask. On the surface, they appear confident, cheerful, even a little bit dominant. But behind it is a deep need to be seen and validated. And this creates a kind of psychological dependence, a craving for connection. But the person rarely admits this to themselves. Instead, they try to hide their neediness behind an appearance of confidence, strength, or even authority. But people sense the pushiness, and slowly they start to distance themselves. Ironically, of course, this pushes others away, which then makes the Heather person feel even more abandoned, deepening the cycle. Heather people are often like needy children, relying on the attention and sympathy of others. This pattern usually comes from childhoods where there wasn't enough love. They were often emotionally undernourished. And as children, they didn't receive the necessary warmth or affirmation to feel safe and seen. These children often felt invisible. Sometimes the parents hardly even noticed their existence. So they developed the habit of talking about themselves constantly, almost as if saying, "I'm here too, please see me." As adults, this continues. They feel a strong sense of validation when they hear themselves talking and know that others are listening. It's the same inner child still asking for confirmation that they matter. You often literally see this in children who become like waterfalls of words, constantly talking about themselves. So when you are talkative, you repeat yourself a lot. Maybe you have not been validated in your childhood. Maybe you can use a little bit of Heather here. So don't judge yourself here, okay? We all get into a Heather state at some point of our lives. So don't worry about it. The emotional overload. Sometimes people in a Heather state are also overly worried and overprotective, especially when they lack inner strength or grounding. They may overdramatize situations, turning small things into big things. I have that. Circle in their own problems because they often lack their own inner energy. They unconsciously start pulling energy from others, which can be very draining for the people around them. And the biggest challenge comes when people around them reach their limit and begin to withdraw. And that's when the loneliness returns. There is also a quieter, more introverted variant of Heather. People who become deeply absorbed in their own personal problems. Even when they don't talk about it much, you can feel the intensity of their inner focus. They spend so much energy turning a situation over and over in their mind that they eventually need to vent the steam by talking it through with someone else. Heather gently restores the ability to connect without clinging. It helps you listen instead of overfilling the silence. It softens the constant need for validation. It makes space inside you so connection becomes mutual rather than desperate. The storyteller seeking an audience or the child who fears the void. The inner narrative is, if I'm not heard, if I'm not seen, I will cease to exist. Now, at its highest expression, Heather transforms into the soulful companion, someone who can deeply be present with others because they are no longer terrified of their own inner silence. Here are some signs you might need Heather. So Heather is for people who fear emptiness and aloneness so much that they unconsciously try to fill the space around them with their presence, stories, or energy. On the transformational level, Heather shows us a pattern of emotional dependence, the belief that I exist because others see me. Underneath the constant talking, storytelling, and seeking attention, there's usually a childhood wound of emotional neglect, invisibility, or lack of validation, a deep longing for closeness coupled with a fear of abandonment, a subconscious belief, if I stop speaking, they'll forget me. If they forget me, I'll disappear. Heather's transformational power is about breaking the cycle of attention seeking and emotional looping. It gently helps the person feel safe in silence without panicking, release the need to prove their existence through constant sharing, develop a mutual flow in relationships where giving and receiving become balanced. Stop drawing energy from others and instead reconnect to their own source of strength. When Heather integrates, something softens inside. Instead of pulling people close, the person radiates presence. And paradoxically, that's when others naturally come closer. At the deepest level, Heather is about returning to oneness and remembering you belong. In a Heather state, the personality has turned away from the higher self. It believes there is separation. Separation from love, separation from others, separation from the divine. And so it grasps, it demands, it pulls on others, unconsciously believing If I don't hold them close, I'll be left behind. But the spiritual lesson of Heather is profound. You cannot take love by force. You can only receive it by alignment. You are never truly alone. You are always connected to the source, the higher self, and the field of unity. Silence is not emptiness. It is where your soul speaks. And true connection arises when we listen as deeply as we speak. Once this understanding awakens, the panic dissolves. The person realizes they were never abandoned. They don't need to demand love. Love flows naturally. They can give without depletion and receive without grasping. This is where Heather transforms from the child begging to be seen into the soulful companion who listens deeply, holds space for others, and creates a field of warmth and trust around them. So at the spiritual level, Heather awakens oneness. It teaches you that separation is an illusion, that even when no one is around, you are never truly alone. Silence becomes a friend. Stillness becomes sacred. The constant chatter of the mind softens, and beneath it, you can discover something eternal. You have always belonged. The real transformation comes when the Heather person begins to trust that by aligning with their higher self and the natural flow of life, everything they truly need, love, understanding, connection, will come to them naturally, without force. People in a Heather state often talk a lot. They feel compelled to share every experience, every problem, every thought, almost as if speaking it makes them real. Now, it isn't selfishness, it's an unconscious plea. Please see me, please don't let me disappear. At the deepest level, Heather is a remedy about coming home to your higher self, to the knowing that you are already whole. In a Heather state, people try to pull love towards them as if they must grab, cling, talk just to survive. But real connection doesn't come through force. It comes through trust. Trusting that love flows naturally when we soften, when we open, when we listen. The healing journey of Heather is the path from the needy child who only receives to the mature soul who can give, who can hold space for others, and who knows how to listen as deeply as they once spoke. And something miraculous happens there. When they stop grasping, when they give instead of pulling, they receive everything they longed for: love, attention, connection, belonging. Because life reflects back the energy we offer. And, well, people love to connect with others who are caring and curious about them. For someone in a Heather state, it can help to practice deep listening. Focus on others first. Learn to pause and wait, letting things flow instead of forcing them. And develop an interest in group activities, helping neighbors, joining a community, contributing to something larger. And align with the feeling, I open myself to the divine flow of energy and I trust that what I truly need will come to me naturally. If you recognize yourself in this Heather state, if you feel that longing to be seen, that fear of being forgotten, or if you find yourself looping around your own pain, I want you to know you are not broken, you are already whole. Truly, even if you don't feel it. If you'd like to go deeper into this work, I created Bloom into Balance, a course where I guide you through the Bach Flower Remedies step by step to help you release old emotional patterns, heal childhood wounds, and reconnect with your higher self. And if you're not ready for the full journey yet, then you can also join the Remedy Circle, a warm, safe space where we meet for live sessions, explore remedies together, and support each other through life's more difficult emotional moments. I'll leave both links below in the description, and if you'd like to keep learning with me, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and so on. And of course, check out the other videos in the playlist, especially the ones on guilt, overwhelm, and chicory, very closely related to the Heather state. Thank you for being here, and thank you for listening. And remember, you are never invisible. You have always belonged. See you in the next video.